All right, so why don't we go for just a quick drive and we'll see how that feels. All right, so starting out, the gas motor is going to kick on pretty quickly. It doesn't really have a lot of electric juice to kind of, get going completely on electric power. There is a little bit of kind of that CVT drone or whine, but overall the cabin's pretty quiet, and so it doesn't make too much of an impact. I find the steering to have kind of a heavy weighting, much heavier than I would have expected. Even in kind of a normal drive mode, you expect maybe a little bit heavier for sport mode. But even in the standard drive mode, I found the steering effort to be pretty heavy overall. So be sure that that's something that you're comfortable with as you're driving. Now, the overall structure and kind of composure of the vehicle over, rough expansion gaps like that or construction work is where I feel that you feel most of the age of the NX. And that's only because all of their newer products, anything that's based on the next generation architecture of vehicles, is just so much more solid. And so there's still a lot of vibration and things that kind of can upset the vehicle and send those shocks kind of up through the cabin as you're driving along. So we're really excited to see what the next generation NX is going to be like. We know that there are, a few changes for the 2021 model that Lexus just announced, so it isn't the full redesigned model yet for 2021, but we would imagine that the 2022 can't be too far behind, given that the RAV4 and other architecture vehicles have really all been replaced by now. As you start from a stop, there is just a little roughness as that gas engine comes back on. You feel that a little bit through the pedals and the steering wheel. It kind of feels like almost like a DSG or automated manual transmission in that regard. There almost feels like some slippage of a clutch before the vehicle kind of starts moving forward with any earnest. So here's kind of that whine that is, again, pretty typical for a lot of hybrids on the market, and even a lot of gas vehicles that have now switched to CVT type transmissions. Again, I do like the way that these seats are kind of bolstered. Not too tight, but not too loose. And it's definitely nice to have as you're driving through town. I do like using auto hold systems. I wasn't a big believer in the beginning, but it's nice to be able to take your foot off the brake pedal when you're at a stop, like a red light or in traffic. Do you use your auto hold system? And let us know in the comments. One thing that the Lexus doesn't have that we see, I think we first saw in a bunch of Subaru models, was if the car in front of you has left from, let's say, a red light or in stop and go traffic, if you don't move quickly enough, because maybe you're looking at your phone when you're not supposed to be, it'll gently nudge you by giving you a little chirp, letting you know that the lead car or, the vehicle ahead has departed. That's really something I think almost every car on the market today should have, just to help give drivers who maybe aren't paying enough attention, kind of bring them back and focus them on what's going on ahead of them on the road. I know the stated horsepower on the NX300H is only a combined 194 horsepower, and that might seem, fairly low, especially for a compact, luxury SUV, but didn't have any issues with the power in terms of getting up and around town. Again, being a fairly standard Lexus product, not an F Sport, not in full F, obviously the ride is going to tend to lean towards that of the comfort side. And what should be helping that is the giant tires that we have on this Lexus NX. It's an 18-inch wheel with a 60 series profile tire, and in this day and age, that's almost something that you will never find on other vehicles. It seems everyone is moving towards, it has to be a 20-inch wheel with like a rubber band of a tire around it. And that's not the case here, obviously, with the Lexus NX300. But even with that extra cushioning that those tires should theoretically provide, still the ride feels a little bit rubbery. And again, just a lot of secondary motions or vibration that kind of works its way up through the cabin. And so would have expected it to be a little bit softer, a little bit more comfortable. Again, nothing super harsh makes its way through to the cabin, but not as refined or as buttoned down as I would expect in a new product, coming from Lexus. So again, we expect to see, pretty big improvements whenever that next generation NX comes out. So if you don't like the drone of, the CVT type transmission that just kind of winds up as you accelerate, you can put the transmission into a sport mode, and you can obviously use the paddle shifters. It's not a direct kind of gear ratio placement. Obviously it doesn't have, set fixed ratios, but you can kind of control when, those upshifts, might occur. Yeah, and again, not the sportiest system out there, but that's not what this car is for either. It does help when you want to downshift as you're going down steeper hills to use more of that engine braking, and the car will regenerate that back to the hybrid battery. Pretty rough roads here with construction going on right now, and again, these are some pretty big events. They're fairly muted. Again, nothing super harsh or super rough coming in through the cabin, but there is a bit of toss, and again, a little bit of that rubbery kind of floaty feeling. Handling is also fairly relaxed. Steering input is about what you would expect for a fairly comfortable vehicle. It's not the sharpest, it's not immediate, but you can hustle it through some corners and curves, and it'll be just fine. thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to click like and subscribe and follow us. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. See you.